Shawn, Ms. Merkel talking in Lisbon saying the potential U.S. tariffs are not compatible with WTO rules. What happens at 12:01 tomorrow morning?
Well, it's quite possible then that the administration will go forward and not grant these exemptions. The EU has said they don't want to negotiate while being threatened. They're quick to retaliate on this. Things are getting a little bit more heated right now. I think from the administration's point of view, they really want to come forward and show this unified effort from the U.S. side that they want to be tough on jobs, domestic job creation, tough on tariffs, that we haven't had good trade deals. And this does complicate the situation on NAFTA negotiations, which we're still in the middle of right now. We don't have a formal deadline on this, but this summer will be tricky with NAFTA.
So then could you see like a temporary waiver then instead, so you can still get conversations going with NAFTA, et cetera?
Absolutely. And the problem with NAFTA, too, is that if you get a new NAFTA deal and Congress needs to vote on it, you're going to ask Congress to vote on NAFTA right before a midterm election. The second part of that is that you have Mexican elections in July. And if, a certain candidate wins in Mexico, that person may not decide to go back to what his predecessor wants to do on NAFTA.
Yeah, I actually want to turn to the question of how much money is really involved, because we interviewed James Gorman overnight, and he said, look, for the $50 billion in China, forget NAFTA, $50 billion, if it reduces it by 20%, it's not that much money. Listen to what he had to say.
So assume those tariffs reduce those imports by 20%. That would take $10 billion off of $500 billion. That's a 2% move in trade. Is that really what's going to change everything? Is that important?
So is it that important?
I think that's correct. And then at Barclays, on our research side, we've put out a lot of research on this, showing that the effect on the economic impact on first-order effects actually isn't that significant. But we have to keep in mind that the second-order effects could be quite significant as well, as people begin to think about round 2 and round 3 as the tensions escalate.
So, Torsten, from an economic perspective, how does that play out? Because the only solution is to just import less. That can't be the right way forward.
Well, and remember, U.S. imports in total is about $2.2 trillion. So absolutely, as David and Shawn are talking about, I mean, the magnitude of what we're discussing is relatively small, less than 5%, in some cases even less. So the bottom line is, it doesn't really have much impact as such right here and now. The only issue is we don't know what retaliation will look like. We don't know what's next. We don't know what other industries, which is why, from an equity perspective, many equity investors you meet, they sit and say, well, is my industry also going to be hurt or going to be helped? So therefore, all this uncertainty about which industries will be benefiting, which will be losing, it's just not a level playing field when you look further out. And that's the main uncertainty that we're trying to quantify here.